Hi, Honest Discussioner here. Today I'm going to be taking on Epidemic 2020, or actually somebody he interviewed, Professor Stephen Strahill of Christopher Newport University. He's the author of a new statute of Virginia law that argues for the First Amendment, but basically against separation of church and state. Now, Epidemic plays the part of a pure interviewer here. I do not know if he agrees with Professor Strahill, or whether he disagrees with him, or even whether he has formed an opinion on the matter. So this video, while in response to his video, is actually directed solely against Professor Strahill. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. If you haven't seen the interview, it's linked in the underbar, and I suggest you do watch it. In my opinion, Professor Strahill has a bit of a warped perspective on things, and I'll go question by question to demonstrate why. For the first question, Epidemic just asks about the reason for the new statute. Professor Strahill responds by stating that while he fully endorses the protection of religious freedoms written by Thomas Jefferson, he and his group are concerned about recent court decisions that he believes relegate religious people to the bottoms of society. He cites Everson versus the Board of Education, in which the Supreme Court decided whether or not public funds could go towards busing students to Catholic schools. Now, the court actually decided it was okay to do this, since the funds were offered to all students regardless of religion, and because the funds were reimbursements to parents, it did not directly go to the religious institution. But because of that case, the Supreme Court was able to widely interpret the First Amendment to say that the federal or state government cannot pass laws to directly aid any or all religions. How this interpretation relegates religious people to the bottoms of society comes later. He does, however, say that the growing federal government means religious people will be less important. Next, Epidemic asked if religion and politics are related, to which the professor says yes, citing that if you are a believer, you believe God is omnipresent, which means God is present in the church and also in the state. And also argues that it is impossible to separate God from any meaning and purpose or morality. Now, I know Epidemic agrees with him on the last one. Let's keep morality out for the moment. I find purpose and I find meaning in taking care of my girlfriend, and she for taking care of me. I don't need God for that. And if you were talking about relegating a portion of society to be at the bottom, what do you call saying a group cannot have meaning or purpose unless they believe what you believe? Now, on the morality part, he argues that morality is based in God, and therefore, de facto, religion and government must come together. I cannot tell you how much is wrong with that statement. First off, even if morality is based in God, what does one do in government when one religion disagrees with another? Second, you are stating that the government must recognize and come together and give adherence to what religion believes when making laws. That is the implications of what this gentleman is saying. If that isn't working towards establishing state religion, I don't know what is. Then he says that the country was founded by Puritans. No! Puritans were the first Europeans to come over here, but to imply they were the basis for our founding government is ridiculous. It's even more ridiculous to appeal to them and not what the actual founding fathers believed. And while some were Christian, or Christian light, many of them were deists. Then Epidemic asks if the founders were trying to gain religious freedom. He makes a number of statements about history, but the last one is the one I found interesting. No one came to this country to escape religion, but to practice it. Now, I'll agree with that statement, generally. I'm sure some people wanted to practice religion, but that's besides the, or wanted to escape religion, but that's besides the point. What I'm getting at is that no one is arguing that this is an atheist country. People shouldn't be allowed to practice their religion. Separation of church and state means the government can't tell you what to believe. No one of any serious note wants to stop people from being religious through law, but time and time again, from my perspective, religious people like Professor Strahill insist that is in fact what we're arguing. Next comes the big one. They asked him about the First Amendment, saying, doesn't that provide separation from church and state? He, of course, says no. The idea that of a secular government came late in American history. He fails to note that it was Thomas Jefferson himself who coined the term wall of separation of church and state in referring to the First Amendment. And if it in fact wasn't Jefferson who coined it, it was James Madison who wrote, strongly guarded as is the separation between religion and government in the Constitution of the United States, the danger of encroachment by ecclesiastical bodies. Link in the underball for the full context of the quote. I could be wrong, but Madison even stopped religions from getting tax exemption. This is someone regarded as the father of the Constitution. The idea that the Founding Fathers wanted the government and religion involved together is ridiculous. It only gets better from here. I will critique the rest of his responses tomorrow, and I'd like to quickly remind people that none of this is directed at Epidemic. As far as I can tell, he played an objective interviewer. He at no point gave his opinion, but I'd like that to change. I'd like to know what Epidemic agrees with him on, and what he disagrees with him on, if anything. Have a nice day. Honest Discussioner, out.